In this week's Conversations with Myself, I decided to not use any of Logic Pro 10's existing loops and created something myself. So I actually went over to here to this part of my desk and did that for the kick drum, used my keys for the shaker, and then used a snap for the snare drum, and then just created everything independently. Again, having a conversation with myself. Much like last week's video, I want to take you into what I did inside of Logic Pro 10. So if you're ready, let's dive in. Here we are inside of the Logic Pro 10 session for the Conversations with Myself, episode 2. Unlike last week's video, where I use a lot of different onboard loops that were inside of Logic Pro 10, I decided to create everything myself in recorded wave files. So we're starting at the top of the session with the bass line that I used the trumpet for, and then applied the Pitch Fork pedal with the octave down made by Electro Harmonix. And I also had the Source Audio Stingray to have a little envelope filter inside, created a great little bass line. And then of course I'm using an amp simulator inside of Logic Pro just to beef up the sound a little bit so it doesn't sound like a trumpet playing an octave below. And then I've created some pads or harmony parts, and you'll notice I have them panned to the left and to the right fairly generously. And then of course you can see my mix settings throughout here. And then the melody, which was using a little bit of the Source Audio Nemesis delay, as well as the TC Electronic Quintessence, playing around with that. It's one of my favorite combinations on my pedal board, so that's kind of what I have set up with it. And then the rhythm section, this is kind of what I wanted to really show you inside of Logic Pro. The finger snaps. I finger snapped all the way through the recording. However, the keys were pretty inconsistent, so I only used part of the keys and then turned it into a loop to create a shaker type effect to it, and then had the kick drum. Notice there is one spot where I made a change and then put it over here, and then I doubled up the shaker of the keys sound, and then panned it left and right. And then to make the kick a little bit bigger, there's some different things that you could have done inside of one file to really beef it up, but I just decided to double it to make it a little bigger. So this is what the project looks like. I know in last week's video you already got a chance to see my pedal board, but I wanted to show you specifically the two pedals that I used to create the bass sound with my trumpet. So starting with the Electro Harmonix Pitch Fork, it's down an octave, and I have the blend set all the way to a wet sound. So just this pedal sound is coming through. There's none of the trumpet. Usually when I'm using this particular pedal, I have it roughly at 50%. That way you get a little bit of this plus a little bit of the trumpet. But for this particular setting, have it all the way to 100% wet and the octave down. And then on top of that, it's running through everything, but going back into the Source Audio Stingray with this envelope filter set on. So the two of these set together gives that really awesome bass sound with the trumpet. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's video on conversations with myself. If you've enjoyed this, make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button down below and that bell that's right next to it to let you know when the next video comes out. And as always, be sure to share this with other friends or musicians that you think might enjoy it. And I'll see you next time.